Welcome back to the Fuel Show. Still to come, we're going to take a look at a new offering from BMW in the form of the 335i. Dennis will be at Portland International Raceway to take a look at the Ferrari Challenge. And now it's time for our first behind the wheel, the Cadillac Escalade. Henry Leyland is famous for two things: starting the Cadillac Car Company and inventing the hair clippers. In our first behind the wheel, we're not going to take a look at the hair clippers, we're going to take a look at the 2007 Cadillac Escalade. You'll find the Escalade in songs by Little Kim, Ludacris, and the Big Timers. This car is a rapper's delight. And here's Dennis and Ian with our first behind the wheel in the 2007 Cadillac Escalade.
Thanks, Nick. Our first category in behind the wheel is Q factors, the gadget or tech score. And when you're talking about the new 2007 Cadillac Escalade, it's off the charts.
Yeah, it actually goes hand in hand with Q factor. That and the word Cadillac Escalade. What other automobile actually has its crest and wreath etched into each one of the headlights? It's
really?
Right there. It's right there in the bulb. You can't believe it. You might not be able to see it, but it's there. You add in a few other things. How about Bose 5.1 surround sound that not only has that for the stereo system, but it also has it for the DVD players in the back. So you don't want to go to the drive-in or you don't want to go to the movie theater, it's right there in the back seat.
Yeah, microwave popcorn, go sit in the car in the driveway. I like that. It's also got heated and cooled front and rear seats. Well, the cooling is only in the front seats, but I think that's a great option, especially like when you're in a luxury car, it's in the summer, it's super hot, you get in, you got air conditioning coming out of your seats. How good is that?
It doesn't get any better than that, but one thing, it has a rear backup camera to make sure you don't hit any little kids wandering out behind the Escalade. You don't want to do that. And you throw in one other Q factor. It may not be a little blingy, but 22-inch wheels. We're going to throw that in because it's one of the first things that you notice when you're looking at Q factor on this vehicle. Now, for scores, what do you think, Ian?
I don't know. I think it's great. I think overall it still kind of feels like a truck. It doesn't feel absolutely like a luxury vehicle, so it can't go, we can't go super high, but I'd say 4.
I'll go with 4 for Q factor. That'll work for us.
The next category behind the wheel for the 2007 Cadillac Escalade is curb appeal. That's kind of the vehicle's raw, unadulterated magnetism, and I think Cadillac has always had it. I'm a huge Cadillac fan myself, so it's tradition, it's coming along, and it's here for this year's Escalade.
Well, they did a lot of things to pull back from other cars that they've made. Their Concept 16 Cadillac, for those of you that don't know, was a concept car that brought together the life of the SRX and the looks as well as the new Cadillac Escalade in the front grille. I think they did a great job putting that together. I think that there was a definite question that Cadillac put to the consumers. Is there too much bling?
Yeah, that's a funny question from like a executive from Cadillac, but I guess Mary Sipes, the director of marketing and advertising, asked a group of people, does it have too much bling? And, they said no. So I think that's good. Subtle, yet elegant.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little things that they did to the vehicle, as well as even incorporating the running boards and a few of the other pieces outside and inside the vehicle to really wrap it together in a package that isn't overwhelming, but yet it's still on the cutting edge. I think for score, what do you think?
I'd have to go high. I think with those side fender vents, it just looks great. Maybe 4.5?
I think that's a fair score. 4.5 in curb appeal.
The next category for the Escalade is, performance. And I don't think we really need to explain it, but it's performance. And they went after their first direct competitor, which is the Lincoln Navigator, and this year they beat them by 100 horsepower.
Isn't that being kind of ornery?
No, I mean, that's the category. We're performance, and they're outperforming their direct competitor.
No, it's okay. He's a Cadillac fan. Don't take everything he says to heart. Now, what they did do is bump up a lot of horsepower. Last year's 6-liter was bored out to 6.2 liters, and with the addition of variable valve timing, they bumped it up to 403 horsepower and 417 pounds-feet of torque. The result is 0 to 60 times in about 6.5 seconds, and quarter miles, if you can believe it, and a little over 15.5 seconds. That puts it about where about a mid-80s Corvette would perform.
Yeah, that's like an M1 tank going really fast.
Well, yeah,
that thing's huge.
There's a lot of weight, 5,500 pounds. Now, what they did is they also got rid of last year's basically a truck suspension and went to a independent suspension in the front that's more car-based, resulting in a much better ride and much better ride control. The performance overall is really, it's surprising for such a heavy vehicle and such a big vehicle to perform so well both on and off the road. Now, there's a story a little later in this segment that we'll talk about that I found out firsthand about how it can perform off-road, but as far as the numbers, it's got to be pretty high up there.
Yeah, I would say it's high. I mean, when you talk about performance, you think of a sports car or a performance sedan. You don't usually think of an SUV. So we have to rate it in that kind of grouping. So what? 3 1/4, 3.75.
Well, I think we'll split the difference, 3.5 for performance, only based on the fact that you have to remember this is a really heavy vehicle, no matter how much horsepower it's got under the hood.
The next category for the 2007 Cadillac Escalade is fit and finish. Now, for a long time, 30, 40, 50 years, fit and finish have been synonymous with Cadillac. They got away from it in the late 80s, kind of early 90s.
Cimarron.
But they are back with it with the 2007 Cadillac Escalade.
Well, don't pick on that Cimarron too much because that's a car of the past for Cadillac. You step inside this vehicle, you look around, and there really is a new look and a new feel for Cadillac as far as their material choices. Everything from the touch items, like what's going on with the stereo, the touch screen, a really nice pick of materials, and they make it almost feels European. I don't know if that's a compliment to an American luxury car maker, but for me, I think it is a step up.
Well, I think the European luxury kind of stole from the early American luxury, and they're kind of stealing it back. And the one thing I really liked about the new Escalade is the dash and the wheel setup. A long time ago, or when the brand first started this model, it felt like the Yukon dash, like a truck-based dash and steering wheel setup.
A little too much carryover, maybe.
Yeah, now it's luxury. It feels soft and supple, and it feels like a luxury car, but wrapped in an SUV body.
Yeah, and a lot of those little things that we look at are beyond just what it looks like or what it feels like. It's looking under things. It's looking under the seats. It's looking in the door jambs. It's looking under the hood. That's more the finish part of the category. You know, when you look at these things, how well you don't see what keeps it together can really bump this score up. What do you think for fit and finishing it?
I'd have to go high. I think they're getting back to the way they used to be, 4 1/4.
I think it's a fair score.
The final category is drivability. It's the overall usefulness of a vehicle. And, well, when you're talking about an SUV mixed with a luxury car, mixed with a family sedan, mixed with a toy hauler, the Escalade's got it.
I don't think there's anything left on the list.
No, I think we're done.
It's okay. It also goes into who can drive it. Young, old, rich, ultra rich.
Cross-cultural.
That's a good idea, too. It really kind of brings it together. You know, the drivability of this vehicle, it is kind of a do-all. About the only thing it's lacking is a box.
Yeah, I think so. But who is really going to be hauling stuff with their Escalade anyway?
Well, that might come to a story that I talked about earlier in this segment. Now, I did take the Escalade out on the sand of the coast, and it looked a little funny. I got some strange looks. If you'd really like to make people give you a strange look, drive a $65,000 Escalade out onto the beach and start doing cookies.
Yeah, you expect like a primered SR5 or something.
Yeah, well, no, that was your car.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but you know what? It was a funny story. I drove it out to the beach. I drove past 3 other sport utilities stuck in the sand, and yes, I stuck my arm out the window very facetiously and yelled Cadillac as I drove right by them. Just because I know how to drive in the sand doesn't mean that I know how to get stuck in the sand. And you know what? When it comes to drivability, there's nothing I can find on this that you can't do besides maybe haul some lumber. I mean, I took the whole family in this thing. We watched DVDs in it. It really is kind of a do-all, be-all vehicle. If you can't stop from running into curbs in your sedan, this might also fit the bill. But for drivability for us, I think it's going to be a pretty high score. Ian?
I'd say 4.
I think that's fair. It can't do everything, but if it had a box or a trailer attached to it, it might be a perfect 5.
Let's see how Dennis and Ian scored the 2007 Cadillac Escalade. For Q Factor, it got a 4.0. For curb appeal, a 4.5. When we got to performance, it got a 3.5. And Dennis and Ian gave fit and finish a 4.25. For drivability, it was a 4.0, bringing the final score for the 2007